All right, you guys, I got another one for you. I got another dating story. So, I met this guy on an app. Usually, this is how I meet them. There's been a few men here and there that I've met in the wild, so to say. But for the most part, especially the ones that I get the really great stories out of, yeah, I meet them on the apps. So, I don't remember which app I met him on. Probably Facebook dating. For whatever reason, I feel like they let anybody on there. And so, let me think. Okay, so we talked for a little bit on the app. He seemed like a really sweet guy. So we talked on the phone a few times, and like the vibes were really good. Like, he was entertaining, like he was a really funny guy. He was really smart. And it's kind of nerdy. I don't mind that. And so, yeah, it was a good vibe, right? All on the phone or whatever. So I don't remember how we came to this conclusion or agreement, but basically we had a conversation where we talked about like our dating experiences and just kind of like how a lot of women have very high expectations for a first date, want to go on really expensive, lavish dates, things like that. It was somewhere in that realm that we were talking about. And so he made a comment or something about how like he loves wings, and he's like, I just don't get it. Like, why can't I just take a woman to go eat wings? Like, what's the big deal? Like, why can't we just eat good food? Why does it have to be expensive? And so I was just like cracking up, and I was like, I love wings. You know what I mean? And he was like, would you be offended if we went to eat wings on our first date? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, and he was like, oh, okay. He's like, what's your favorite wing place or whatever? And I was like, oh, I love Wingstop. And so he was like, okay, cool. Like, bet, like, let's meet at Wingstop. And he lived in downtown. And so we met at this Wingstop close to downtown. And it's a really nice location. Like, it's actually really nice in there. It's like a newer location. I'm pretty sure he walked there. Because I think he lived like maybe across the street or just a couple blocks away or whatever. So it was like springtime. So it was like that weird weather where it's like windy and cold, but then it's hot all in one day, like all in one whatever. And so we get there, and like he's really tall. I think he was like 6'4". He had these like braids, and they were like kind of like came out like this, and he had little beads on them. And so like when he'd move his head, the beads would like click, 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 click. I mean, this is like a grown ass man, like, I think he was a little bit older than me. This was like a few years ago. So I'm like, it's cute. Like, it looked good on him. Like, I'm not throwing shade at that. It was cute. So, anyway, he looked fresh, whatever. He was dressed nice, like you could tell he put some effort into his appearance, whatever. So initially I'm like, okay, like this is cool. Like, he's a sweet guy, whatever. Again, super nerdy, like super into gaming, anime, like all these other different things or whatever. Cool. Like, I have no issue with that. Like, it's all good. I have my own nerdiness. And so, he's like, what's your favorite flavor of wings? And I'm like, do you like spicy? And he's like, yeah, I love spicy. Like, what other way is there to eat wings? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, I actually love lemon hot. Like, so it's like, I'm sure people know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But it's like lemon pepper seasoning with the hot sauce. And so they toss it all together. Now they be like promoting it or whatever, or serving it as a featured flavor. But my sister was actually the one that put me onto it. And so it's always been my favorite flavor. But you can usually only get it when you go into the restaurant or if you call in your order. So anyway, he's like, okay, but like I can eat a lot of wings. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'll probably just eat like 6. And he's like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, like we are on a date, not to say like I eat less or whatever. I mean, we're going to eat wings. It's going to be messy. It's just an awkward thing to eat on a first date, right? Like you're talking, you're getting to know each other. Your fingers are all dirty. Your mouth is dirty. Like, I'm not a meat eater. Like, I like to eat. So, yeah. Anyway, so he's like, I'm going to get a 20 piece of wings. And I'm like, that's a lot of wings. Like, you're going to eat like 15, 16 wings. Like, I don't know. I was just like, okay, whatever. It's your money. So he gets like a 20 thing of wings. He gets 2 large fries, and then he gets 2 drinks. And, I'm just like, okay, cool, whatever. So, we sit down, we're talking, I'm laughing a lot. Like, this guy is hilarious. He's got me laughing. Like, we're getting along, right? And so he's eating the wings, and like, he's got like sauce everywhere. I'm trying to be a lady, but of course, again, it's wings, so it's messy. And so all of a sudden, like, I look up at him and he's sweating. Like, he's just covered in sweat. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I'm like, well, you're sweating a lot. Like, are you sure that you like normally eat spicy food? And he was just like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Like, I love spicy food, but looks like he's dying. Like, and he's like, like, it's spicy for him. And I'm just eating it like whatever, because, I'm Mexican and we eat spicy food and that's just what we do. And so he's like, I don't think I've ever ordered the hot at Wingstop though. Like, this is my first time trying it. And I'm like, well, that's why I told you, like, if you wanted to get like half and half or just like get a few to try. And he's like, no, we're going all in. Right? And so he's just like talking, and like the date just goes on, right? And I'm trying to like ignore the fact that this guy is literally in a puddle of sweat. And so I'm just like, okay. We keep talking, and it's getting worse. Like, it's just now, like, I can see the sweat like pooling like right here at the collar of his shirt, and his braids, because they're like little individual things or whatever, it's dripping off the edge of each little braid, and like especially in the front. And so when he like laughs or moves, like, it like splashes, Oh God. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I felt so bad for the guy. And I was like, do you want to stop eating? Like, are you okay? And he's just like, no, I'm fine. He's like, yeah, I guess I'm only getting a little sweaty. And he's like, it's really hot in here, don't you think? And I'm like, no. Like, it feels kind of normal in here. But I'm like, do you want me to get you some paper towels? And he's like, yeah, please. So I go get him like a wad of paper towels. And at like Wingstop, they have like those like old school paper towels, like the brown ones. And so he's literally has like piles of them now. And he's just like, with the sweat. And I'm just like, I'm trying so hard not to pay attention to the sweat and just like keep listening and like talking and whatever. But like, he's starting to lose it, and I'm just like, we don't, like, we can take him to go, like, it's not a big deal, and he's trying to push through, whatever. So then like at the end, like, finally he agrees like to take the rest to go. He's like, I'm too hot. And so he's like, can we go for a walk? And I'm like for a walk, like, he's like, so like I can cool down. And I'm like, it's not really like cold outside, but whatever. I'm just like, I told you guys, I'm here for the plot. Like, I'm just being open, whatever. So I'm like, okay, sure. Now, mind you, we're like in downtown. So this isn't like a nice area. Like, it's not like an ideal place to go for a walk. I'm just saying, like, this is like in the almost kind of like residential, like Charleston and what was that? Crap, I don't know the street. Maryland or some, I don't know, somewhere over there. It's not the best area, is all I'm saying. So he takes me walking like low-key, like down this alley right by the Wingstop. And I'm like, all my little flares are going off because I'm like, this is a little weird. Like, why are we walking down an alley? And I say that to him, and I'm like, hey, like, doesn't feel very safe. Like, where are we going? And he's like, oh, I want to show you something. And I guess there was like these murals that, artists painted or whatever. And so he takes me down this pathway. I see the murals and I'm like, okay, like obviously he knew what he was looking for. And so we go and we see these like hood murals. They're pretty, whatever. And we're just, chit-chatting, whatever, getting to know each other. But I realized like he just wasn't for me, he was a little too like immature in a way, I think we were about the same age. Maybe he was a little bit older. But like we just lived very different paths in life. And I felt like we didn't really have a lot in common or a lot to build off of. And he was just so awkward. Like he was so awkward and uncomfortable with me. And so, and like he kept expressing how like I intimidated him, or there was like this perception that like I had my life together and he didn't, type thing. And I'm like, no, I'm in transition. Like, as a divorced woman trying to rebuild my life, like, and I meet with men and they're like, oh, you seem so put together, and I'm not. I find that weird because I'm like, no, like, I mean, maybe I present that way, but definitely not. And I try to be very like generous and give people space to be human. And when people are in transition, I try not to judge them off of that or whatever. But there are definitely other things that I'm paying attention to, right? Like the way that a man copes with hard times, right? So I like to ask questions like that. Like I ask questions to men like, when you're going through a hard time, or if they are going through a hard time, like, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that? Do you call people? Do you have a community? Do you have support? And sadly, most men don't, and that's problematic, that's not healthy. Like being isolated, drinking, or using other things to kind of help you cope and get through hard times, for me and where I'm at in my life, those are not indicators of somebody that I want to spend my life with, or that I even want to spend my time with long term, if I'm really looking to date somebody seriously, like those are things that I want to know, that when we land on hard times, that you're not going to go out drinking, or you're not going to go hang out with a bunch of women, or you're not going to bash me on social media, or, what I mean? Stuff like that. So it's like the maturity, the emotional intelligence kind of has to be there in order for me to want to continue to talk to you. And not to say that I haven't tried to give men opportunities that don't have those things, with the hope that maybe they'll take interest in bettering themselves. But we can't go based off potential. You know what I'm saying? Like in some respects, I think you kind of can, but in regard to that, in regard to like knowing how to handle yourself in the hardships of life, to me, that's a really big question. Because I mean, that's why I'm here sharing with you guys about the way that I've dealt with difficult seasons of my life, because I know how difficult it can be to show up well when you're not okay, when life is hitting you like back to back, like, and everything is wrong, and your car is out, and, you're having a hard time at work, and, whatever, like all these different things that happen in life. It's like we have to have healthier ways to deal with life. Like we're not kids anymore. We're not young. Like and even if we were, like even then, that's not an excuse. But, we can always learn to manage and handle life better, because I have control over that. I have control over myself. I have control of how I show up in my life. I have control of like, if I choose to call a friend and be honest about what I'm going through, I can be vulnerable with people in my community. And I understand that not everyone has that. And so, like I said, I think if I see a tendency for a man that is trying, that is reading books, that is trying to learn, that it has gone to therapy or is going to go to therapy, or some type of attempt, sometimes that can be, they connect with God and their community in the church, etc. Like any attempt to to better themselves, to come out of themselves, and to cope with life in a healthier way, even if that's exercise, eating health, whatever. It doesn't have to be the way that I do it, right? But I look for those things. Like I'm looking to see, like, how do you deal with life? How do you live your life? Like, what does your day-to-day look like? All of those things matter to me. Your habits matter to me. The way you parent. Are you a parent? Like, are you actually a father, or are you just a sperm donor? Like, do you have a bunch of problems with your baby mama? Like, or your ex, or whatever term you prefer to use with that. But, all of those things are important, because my life is peaceful. My life it doesn't have any drama. I don't have drama with my ex-husband. I don't, my daughter's older, and, I'm in school and I work, and my life is very routine. And so outside of, obviously life happens, right? And life be lifing. But outside of that, like, I really don't have much else kind of going on the outside. And so that is so important to me when I'm talking to a man. If he has a lot of moving parts going on, I'm really considering if I want to let that into my world. Is this person worth whatever? I mean, it's going to sound rude, but like, whatever headaches may come, right? And it's just, it's difficult. It's difficult because I do think that a lot of people, not just men, but just people in general, don't know what to do when life gets really hard. And so I'm hoping that with me sharing stories, funny or not funny, serious, etc., like, I do plan to kind of be all over the place, sharing different aspects of my life, that it can encourage you guys, like, you can show up well in your life. You can, like, you can heal, you can make different choices. Like, you have the control and the ability to change your life. And I know that trauma, it impacts us so much, our experiences, the communities that we're in, the way that we grew up, the people that are around us, like, all of that is relevant. So I never want to make it seem like I'm saying, like, people are where they are because that's where they want to be. I understand that there are systemic issues that can stop us, that there are ways that we grew up and messages and patterns, that keep us from growing, from learning, from taking the paths that maybe seem like culturally I'm not interested in that, or, whatever it may be. And so, therapy, psychology, mental health, it's not just for white people. Like, I'm just gonna say that because I feel like it needs to be said. Like, me being, brown in the mental health field, a lot of times, sometimes I'm the only brown person in the room, especially in school. And it's not fun. I don't like it. And I want to see more of us represented, like Black and brown people, like Asian people, like all the minorities, the Native people, like Indigenous people, so like, we all need to be in the room. We all have access now. Like, there's so many authors and so many people that are putting content information out there that are not white, and mental health looks different for us. We may approach it in a different way. Maybe there's more somatic things that we appreciate, more body movement, and like, there's so many different angles and ways that we can come at our mental health and our healing journey, incorporating the ways of our ancestors, incorporating, all of these different things that just make us more in touch with ourselves. I think sometimes we're just so out of tune with ourselves. Like, we don't really know how we feel. We don't really know if we're okay. We don't really know what we want or how we want to deal with things, and maybe it's because, like, life's beating you down. Life hasn't been fair. Life hasn't given you the things that you dreamt about or hoped for. I totally understand that, you know, coming from a divorce into dating world, it's like, it was so disappointing in the beginning, you know, like I really did, I did life with an amazing human. And going from that standard of living to these dates and like these different type of people, it's not to be hateful, it's not to make fun of anybody, it's just the reality of, I think, a lot of our experience, a lot of our life, right? And so I'm just sharing my perspective and kind of what I went through and how I deal with it, because it's like, I do get discouraged, guys. I do. I get discouraged. I lose hope. I'm like, well, you know, I'm probably never going to meet the kind of man that I want to meet. Or I actually, in the beginning, when I first got divorced and I first started dating, I hate that I used to say this because it's so untrue, but it's just, I was speaking out of pain, you know, out of pain and out of not wanting to get hurt again, not wanting to get disappointed again. And I would tell my friends, one, I never want to get remarried. And two, I would say, I already had my great love story. And so because I would meet so many single women in my age bracket that had never really had a great love or had never really been in a long-term relationship or, you know, have never been married. And so because, you know, I did start young and honestly, I feel like I was very fortunate to meet the quality of man that I met at that age, you know. I healed a lot in my marriage. I found out a lot about myself in my marriage. And so along with all the bad, also came a lot of good. And so I don't know. There's, like I've told you guys, I don't have animosity toward my ex-husband. I wish him the best. We have a great relationship. We're friends. And so, you know, we very much prioritize our daughter and her well-being and what's best for her. And so I love that. I love that we're both grown up enough to do that. But that is not true. I may have had a great love story with my ex-husband, but I will have another great love story again. And who knows, maybe my next love story will be better than the last one. At least that's what I hope. So I'm finally in a space where I feel like I'm allowed, in a way. Like I finally gave myself permission to dream again, to want again, to, there's a specific, to long, that longing in my heart for something real, for something good, for something pure, for something magical. It sounds so cheesy, but you know, I want it. I want the things. And so, you know, there has been a lot of stages between then and now, which is part of, you know, what I want to share. And of course, I'm not just going to talk about my dating life or dating stories, but I know that this is fun and it's engaging and people want to hear about it, and also helps you get to know me a little bit better, right? And show you different sides of me, because I'm not just a professional and like, oh, and I went to therapy and my life is like this and, you know, whatever. And I'm in school and like, I'm serious, but I also am fun. I'm both. So, yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.